I'm John Seacott, the executive editor of the Brewer Magazine, and welcome to another edition of the Brewer Magazine podcast. You know, Adam and Grace Robbins, great people from Reuben's Brews, along with brother-in-law Mike Pfeiffer. Man, we had them all together as one of our cover stories in our July-August issue of the Brewer Magazine, and it was a really in-depth interview, almost 2 hours long, as I got a chance to hang out with them at their Ballard location. Their second location, now have a third one, which is now the second one because they closed the original one. You can read all about it. But we did have a lot of fun in Seattle talking to them in person and got to know a lot about them. We talked about a lot of things. But Reuben's Brews, one of the things that really caught me is that Adam said that they're the champions of nationally known but locally available, and they're aiming to grow their brand while remaining deeply embedded in their neighborhood. And the conversation just gives a little window into it, not the whole 2 hours, some snippets from it. So I hope you enjoy. Cheers.
And then the problem then is if you go back to 2013, the real estate market was so tight around here, and we had 4 deals fall through that were either agreed with letter of intent or handshakes, waiting to be the leases written up and drawn, and they'll fall through before they were signed, just because other tenants would come in or blah blah blah. So it took a long time to find this space. It's probably took over a year, and then it wasn't as big as we wanted ideally, but we had to find somewhere, and then it took about a year to get the permits done and build out here. So it was almost 2 years, or it was over 2 years between when we realized we needed somewhere and opening this spot. Wow. And then as Grace said, I thought we were at 800 barrels a year then. We had planned this to go up to 3,000, but we were within 5 weeks at that run rate. And it's oh. Yeah, so it's that's kind of how we got to where we are.
How does that change your thought process when you see that many people coming through the door, that much beer being consumed? I mean, obviously you're happy, but at the same time you're like, oh crap. That means more investment, that means more, turning things around faster. And how do you quickly plan that? Because it's not quick.
Yeah, it's not.
But
quick.
you want to be as quick as possible because you don't want to lose the consumers that are already clamoring for things. How was that balancing act?
Well, you kind of lose sight of the point, the raison d'etre, right? You've got the point of being here, right? Which is that you're making the best beer you can for your customers. So you can't let tank turns or anything like that come into play. One of the determinants of a strong company is that you always have reserves to be able to do something if the opportunity comes up, right? Now, I think it's not in Good to Great, but it's in a number of books that those companies, the top companies, always have access to liquidity. So we've never been at a point where we don't have anything in the back pocket. So to answer the question, if we need to get 3 more 20s, if we need to take out 2 20s and put in a 60, we do it. It's not like I've got to go and figure out how we can afford a specific tank, right? So that's kind of in my mind, and I couldn't operate, I couldn't be comfortable if we were having to sell beer this week to pay the bills for next week, right? So, and that's part of the business plan, and that's a part that maybe makes us a little different because a lot of people don't take into account working capital, and so selling more costs more. That's what you're talking about, right? And from my background, I've always known that, and I've always been very conscious that you need a big buffer to be able to take opportunities as they come, if that makes sense. So I think for most readers, you do need to think about working capital. I'd like to give you an idea, if we're going to sell more, right, you're going to have to buy grain, and you've got a certain amount of inventory on hand. You're going to have to then, have certain assets that might need to be bought. But our net working capital days, do people know about that? I don't know. So we have, say, 100 days, I'm making up numbers, 100 days of inventory on hand. We pay our suppliers in 30 days, and our distributors get take 30-day terms on us. Right? So if we're going to make a sale, we've essentially got to get 100. We got these 100 days of inventory, 30 days, less 30 days of AP because you don't need to pay them for 30 days, and then plus 30 days of before you get paid yourself. So effectively, you've got 100 days of sales wrapped up in the balance sheet of money that you don't have in your bank.
Right.
So for each increased sale, you're going to have 100 days of those sales in your balance sheet. So you need to understand for each sale that you make how much working capital that uses. And we've been doing lots of things to try and bring that down because COVID, I think for most breweries, has like blown that out of control. A lot more inventory on hand. For example, but some businesses, when you make a sale, it's like net. It actually is net working capital negative. So like a Costco, they don't have credit cards, right? So they get paid cash in the bank as soon as they make a sale, but they haven't even paid for that product when you buy it, because they're only on the shelf on an average of 12 days, and they have 30-day terms. So every incremental sale they make money on it. They don't have to take a working capital position, and that would be the ideal, right?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's a bit too accounting, but it's something I think about.
When we first started doing distribution, Adam would say, like, every account you have to have 4 to 5 kegs for that account, because you have a keg on tap, a keg that's empty, a keg that's next to go on tap, and a keg that's in the distributor.
Right.
So every account that you have to buy 4 to 5 kegs just for that account. So that's what I think adds on to the being 100 days out with grain or whatever. It's you're not buying just one keg per one account. You're having to buy multiple. So.
And COVID did have crazy impacts because obviously supply chain was very much impacted across the board. And so it was like, well, the risk is we run out of things and we can't produce. So let's just stock up on everything. And, you know, our inventory went up as a result. And we're kind of now at the point where we're like trying to rationalize down and figure out what is the right amount to hold so that you can be nimble and make changes, but not be sitting on things instead of being able to use that capital for something else that is actually making money.
Right. How's it working at management structure now? How have things, as you guys have grown, is it still? Well, am I talking to the management structure? I mean, is there? Do you guys have? That's what I'm saying. Because you obviously like you like to talk about, like, if you don't know something, you probably want to bring someone in to be able to do that. How have you been able to grow that to make sure that you guys are successful? And where does that start? And where did it start?
Yeah, it's a great question.
It's a great question. I just have a funny anecdote. James, who had to leave us earlier, you know, when we brought him in as the head brewer, I don't know, it's funny, it's kind of sad to look back on now, but, you know, he didn't have a desk. He literally put a grain bag on a keg and sat there to do work. And he said he walked around and was like, do I manage you? He we had no org structure, like we had no, it was just a little bit Wild West. And
That's not saying much about me because I was the boss. I was the manager then.
We were all responsible, but it was such everybody does everything. So you kind of just jump in where needed, and like roles didn't exist. And it was just we come here and we get it done. We work until it's done. And, you know, so anyways, that was kind of the early days of our management structure were very non-existent, but I think we have grown up a bit in that regard, kind of, you know, as we needed to, really.
That's really bad.
Sorry.
Trust me. No, there's probably 9,000 breweries. If I print that, there will be 9. They're like, yep, exactly. It's just how it is in this industry. People want to get it done.
Yeah.
Like it's not until you start getting to the point where there's people asking you, like, well, you know, who's my boss?
Yes.
You know, then you know, okay, I guess we have to think about that.
Yeah.
And I actually came from a prior company that deliberately didn't have an org structure on paper because they didn't want recruiting companies to get it. Now, that wasn't the reason why we didn't have it, but I came from somewhere that I was comfortable with not having an org structure written down.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's not ideal. No, we it's not ideal, but EOS. Have you ever heard of EOS? Entrepreneurial Operating System.
Oh, okay, yep.
It's
Oh, you say
a guy
that.
called Gene Whitman wrote it, and it's basically a accumulation of best practices.
Yeah.
And we mid 2020, I think started or late 2020.
Because we were
Around-
video calling.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so we started implementing that back then. And what I realized, my blind spot was, I've been in corporate world for too long, and I've been through so much. So I knew all this stuff, but I didn't realize that it was not everybody had that background. So one of the best things about EOS is that it actually gives the managers a toolkit to learn, like how to do management training, if you like, which for small, medium-sized businesses doesn't really exist.
Right.
You've got to be a massive multinational to have any kind of management training program. Yeah, so we started, it's been about a couple of years now, so
Okay.
that includes org structure, like a version of org structure that's a far better version of that. Includes like weekly scorecard, includes a way of doing running meetings, includes everything around the management of an entity. And I think that's really kind of helped us kind of grow up a little bit, and be able to like continually improve as an organization. So I think it's night and day.
It also helps you hire the right people and make sure you have the right people. That their thing is everybody has a seat on the bus, but make sure they deserve to be on the bus. I'm not sure.
Yeah, right person, right seat.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right people.
Person, right
And
seat.
so it's like you might have a friend that works with you that you really like, but it's like, are they carrying their weight? Are they working as hard as everybody else? No, then should that person be here?
Right.
And I don't think we ever had a problem hiring people. So I'm not sure if we've even let anybody go because of that. But I think it just helps you think of, okay, when you start hiring people or promoting or whatever, people, what to look for, and not feel bad that you're going to let somebody go, but it's for the better good of the company and everybody that works for that company, as opposed to just making one person happy that they have a job. And I don't want that to sound bad. But
No, and it's about values alignment, right? And
Yeah.
so, and it's not just hiring and firing. It's also like, how do we give feedback to people? How do we help grow people in the roles that they have, and help them see like where they're fitting in with the organization as a whole? Like, are we on this bus together? Are we all going in the same direction together? Right?
Yeah.
It's kind of pretty fundamental, but really important to know that we're all rowing in the same direction.
Yeah.
But yeah, in terms of being able to provide feedback to folks as well and help people grow in their roles. And I think it's absolutely true. We really do love and value promoting from within, but oftentimes people are great at their job, so they get promoted. But if there's no additional training for management, like if that's now part of their role, then we're failing them. So we have to give them the tools that they need in order to continue to grow within the company. So yeah.
Growing in the company and growing the company. I think that it's hard at this point in time. You get 26,000 barrels you guys are at ish, right? Going higher means, like, talking about the capital strains, or whether you want to do it, and the way that craft has grown now, where it's becoming very almost insular to an area. You don't get a lot of national brands anymore. I don't think you were probably thinking at any point of being a national brand or a regional brand, but now you're, I think, what's the technical term for regional? 15?
15, yeah.
So you're in that regional brand status. What are you happy with? Are you happy where you are? Is it, what's growth from this point on? And we were just talking about, org structure. You guys are still, a husband and wife that are putting this together. I mean, you have kids. I mean, it becomes this like whole thought process of where do we go from here? And is it right here? Is it moving on beyond, opening up other places, satellites, production going out farther? What do you think of in the future for this right now? At least immediate, like a 5-year plan type of thing.
Yeah. Well, we talk about being nationally known, locally available. That's one thing that how long have I been talking about that? Like since day one, or,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Like boring everybody.
2013.
But I want us to be known for our beer, but I don't think we don't have delusions of grandeur that we can be a national brand or that we would want to be a national brand, because that's a different deal, right, altogether. I think we talk about we talked about trusted guide and wanting to help people on their beer journeys, and enjoyably expanding people's love of beer is what we want to do. And how do we do that? Well, I think, that means being available in people's fridges or wherever their beer occasion is, and helping them connect with friends there, but also that breadth, right, through the different channels as much as we can, right? But the channel that we can most give breadth and expand people's love of beer is through the tap room, right? So, and then that comes into that multi-channel distribution strategy. So like Mike said, if a load of people have come into that space, which is 1.1 miles away, as the crow flies, Google Maps, thank you, and they don't know who they haven't heard of us, then by hearing of us at that space, then hopefully they'll go to the grocery store opposite and buy a six-pack, or get us on tap down at the local restaurant, right? So then hopefully our partners will benefit as well, you know, not just us. So I think, in answer to your question, I think we want to carry on the journey we are on, and there's a lot more people to find out who we are in our current geography. And get more efficient, get better at delivering people, like giving people what they want and opening their eyes to what they want. It's not a good analogy, but like Henry Ford, right? If when he started, he was asked, like, what do people want? They'll say a faster horse, right? They wouldn't have said a car. Right? So in my mind, if we would be really successful if we could come up with a new style or do something that people didn't know that they really wanted, but is amazing, and opens their eyes. And you see that glint in their eyes, and they open up, and it's like, oh, this is amazing. Right?
Yeah.
That's why we did this. That's why we do this.
Yeah.
That's why we started this, and that's why we do this now.
Just going all the way back to your homebrew roots, when did you step off the deck here? And how was that change? Because that's probably one of the biggest changes to a brewery ever, is when the owner is too busy doing other things to brew his own beer. Again, I bounce all over the place. So these are just things that pop in my head. But what was it like stepping off the deck and saying, all right, time to have other people make my beer so that I have time to do other things?
So let's use the
Or all of you guys, yes. Because you guys all were a part of this.
These two brewed together the first 50 batches. Was it more than that? 50 batches.
I had zero brewing background. I moved here from Illinois with eventually my wife and her first daughter. But I own a construction company. This is going to sound bad, but was not into craft beer. I'm in the Midwest, Bud Light, Miller Light.
Say 30 rack.
And then out here for Christmas or something, and Adam had a bunch of home brews, and I tried them, and then was like, and then, long story short, moved out here with.
I don't know. We don't want to shorten that story.
We got him really drunk.
He started hiding the beer so nobody else could find them.
Yes.
And then said, "If you ever open a brewery, I'll come out and help you."
And I said I wanted to be the first. I didn't want to come in when it was successful. I'd rather be there from the beginning when it was growing. I don't want to jump on somebody else's coattails. I'd like to be there from the beginning. And then I was really drunk at a bar, and they came out to visit us and asked if we'd move to Seattle. And without asking my wife, I said yes. but my
She's
wife,
still with you, right?
Yeah. But
okay, so we're good.
And we're sisters. So
My wife's family is all out here anyway, so I was doing her a favor.
yeah.
She says, hold it over my head. But I would just in the beginning, Adam would come home from work and we'd go there and brew at like 4 or 5 in the afternoon till the first 15, 20 brews, we never saw the sun. Because it was like you were in there all day brewing, or the first day was miserable. But
That's a story for another day.
our first beer was a Reuben beer, and we had to brew it on a homebrew system because
The boiler,
the kettle wouldn't fire up.
the burner was crazy.
So we had to
Blew up,
we-
nearly
we
killed
had
you
to-
guys.
We had to fill
5
the,
batches.
so we had to feed the tank, get up to 5 barrels on a homebrew system in one day
So that it could get up to
above
the.
the temperature brew.
Yes.
But with no background, I would watch him and like slowly do the work. He just watches and then get better, and I would do all the work, and he would be there. And then finally, he trusted me to go to work, or I could brew in the morning while he was at work, and then if I have any questions, just text him. To where then I was able to. But I was like, and hiring people, you want to hire experience, but also inexperienced, because experience have their own way of doing it. But which is sometimes good, sometimes bad. But I would always tell from the beginning, like Adam showed me how to brew it. So if Adam were to ever come up, he would know where I'm at in the process because he's the one who showed me how to do it. So if I were to train another brewer to come in, it's like I'm training the way Adam trained me. So it would kind of like he would know where we are at in the process because we're doing it the same way we've always done it.
Yeah.
Which was I mean, we've obviously, the bigger you get, you change things, and
that was 2 brew houses ago
Yeah.
as well. Like we've added to 2 additional brew houses since then. So
but so the good of hiring experience is I've done it this way, never thought of it. It's a good idea, and so same with anything.
But sometimes unlearning the
Yes.
way you've done it is
Yep.
a challenge.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And
Well,
so,
the other thing is it's a big continuous process, and as you get bigger, there's handoffs between people, right? So
Yes.
when you hire in somebody and they change what they do in a part of the process that they're given, there's downstream. Is that downstream or upstream? I think it's downstream effects. Yeah, I think so.
it's like phone call or whatever that game is. You tell me how to do something, and I tell you how to do something, and by the time it gets back to you, it's not the way
Yep.
you told somebody how to do it.
And that's a big part of that problem. But let's use this EOS analogy again, right? That any company has 3 core functions: get work, like sales and marketing; do the work, operations; and like finance, get paid, right? And my day job was the get paid bit. I was a finance director. I taught myself the operations piece, and that's kind of how we started. And we didn't really do any of the sales and marketing. That kind of just organically happened because I think we had the operations in the right spot. And over time, I've learned that first bit. So going like the last batch I brewed, start to finish, was a Goza that we did in 2016, I think.
GABF goal.
Yeah. People can look that one up. Yeah. And so I downed tools then and thought I'm going to leave on a high. And then we brewed last year together, right? Was it last year?
For the 10th
Our
anniversary.
Yeah, so we,
The first beer we ever brewed, we did it for our 10-year anniversary.
but not on a homebrew
No, no.
system.
I was gonna say you
No,
didn't
no,
burn
no.
anything out or anything.
Not 5 batches back to back to back to back.
But
It was
honestly,
like 23 hours, wasn't it?
it was.
It was crazy. It was nuts. It was
didn't see
like,
the sun
oh
for
dear.
a long
Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
crazy. And then the next time we brewed, we just wanted to get finished the same day that we started. That was our goal. And then
Like
the next
finished
batch,
by midnight. Yeah.
Yeah, finished by midnight, the same technical day. And then the next batch we brewed, we wanted to try and finish when there was still some sunlight. That's kind of how we worked. But in terms of stepping back, I mean, that's a big part of obviously Mike and James is more technically trained than I, and since when he came, I think we were strong from a QA perspective before he came on board, but he's taken it to another level, honestly, and made a lot of improvements and helped us grow into the bigger spaces and stuff. So I've not felt any worry about stepping back in that area because it's in really safe hands.
Nice.
Yeah.
I absolutely agree. I still I know enough to be dangerous about beer. Like, I feel like I know a good amount. I like certainly more than the average person, but sometimes I sit and I hear a discussion between James and Kat about something happening in the lab. I'm like, I never even knew, I don't even know these words that you're talking about. Is this beer you're talking? You know, it's kind of, for sure, there's many layers of the onion to pull back and focus on quality is, it was, we have comfort in letting go of the reins, I guess, in that regard.
Yeah, just a funny anecdote. So like we have a lab now, right? But like that lab started as a microscope on our dining room table, and I never forget. Like I had Reuben sitting on my knee, like looking at trying to have him count the E cell, you know, for the E cell. But yeah, you do what you got to do. Being able to do this is a privilege, right? And it's a privilege, and it gives us the opportunity to do all sorts of things. And so, Grace could talk about the foundation, but like for me, being from London and being in football since I was 4, that when a local USL2 team came to us as a concept, it was like, yeah, we're going to do everything we can to help you, right? And it was like, for me, that was kind of the beauty of it. And what's amazing is, like at the brewery, loads of people are wearing the Ballard FC shirts, and it's so that to me is kind of one of the highlights of us opening, you know, being able to do things, and maybe you could say for the community, but like create something from nothing.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like what we did with the brewery. It didn't exist, right? And being able to help people on, like with Ballard FC was just so much fun. I'm not really eloquently explaining it too much, but like I would say that, you know, and I don't know if Grace wants to talk about the foundation, but that's something else that we kind of have been, it's not the point of doing this, but it's a big point of doing this, you know?
Yeah, because you guys, I mean, you're able to affect in a way that you wouldn't probably be able to 10 years ago, and being able to have a name attached to it, you know, it must be an important thing. I mean, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I mean, we did start the, I don't know, I guess way back up. I started my adult life as a Peace Corps volunteer, and I think it's just kind of innate in me that like there's need everywhere, right? So what can I do to help and support? But we make beer, you know, which is fun and fantastic, and it's wonderful, and it does bring people together. But what can we do to help people who are doing good work in the community through beer? And that's when we started back in the day, the Thank You Thursday program, where we would invite local nonprofits to the brewery. I mean, I think this is kind of commonplace now, actually. And donate back, like $1 a pint goes to that organization. So they would bring people in who would be learning about the brewery for the first time. Our customers would be learning about their work, and they would often find volunteers and supporters, you know, through those nights. I think like the biggest one was the baby goats. The biggest of all time was baby goats. Who knew people would be so crazy about baby gotes? But there was like an adorable picture of a little baby goat.
15,000 people say they're going to show up.
It was, they put out, it was so bananas.
Lines around the block. Like,
I know,
yeah,
it was,
awesome.
it was like, people would wait hours in line to see baby goats, and the Puget Sound Goat Rescue, like they've had so many people being willing to volunteer as a result of those days, and they have supporters, and they're able to amplify their work, which is kind of like, this is exactly the thing that beer can do to support the community that we serve. So we've been working on that, and another big project with the foundation is the Mosaic State Brewers Collective, which is a mentoring program to help bring in people of color into this rather not colorful industry. And so that's been a really fun and engaging project with some of the other breweries in the state. Medier is one. They were the first black-owned brewery in the state. Now they're one of two, I think, which is pretty wild. And yeah, so helping to support people on whatever their journey is. Some people don't necessarily want a career in beer. They're looking at cider or wine or kombucha or what have you, or they just want to open a beer bar, not necessarily brew, but trying to help people find that they have a place in this industry. So that's been a fun and rewarding experience as well. But I think, yeah, to Adam's point, like we're very much enmeshed in this community, right? Like we all live right here, and these are our people. And to echo Adam's point, going to a Ballard FC game, and you're like, I know you. You're my kid's doctor. You're our dentist. You're ahead of school. You're like, It's so much fun to feel like we are in a big city, but this is totally our neighborhood, and feel all of those connections and providing opportunities and experiences for people to feel that connection as well. I think is really something special about beer that,
Which I don't think a lot of people outside the beer community understand that. Like, that's what keeps me loving this job is getting to talk to people about stuff like that, because it's like it's not the end goal, but man, it's the great benefits that you can be able to impart to people that if you didn't have a brewery, you didn't have that money to be able to raise for those people and stuff. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah, or a platform just to have their message amplified, right? So I think that's definitely been pretty core to who we are and what we do, even if it's not like the main point of why we're in this. But. Yeah.
Don't forget, you can always check on brewermag.com. You can also see us on YouTube and listen to us on Spotify. And don't forget daily updates on Facebook, Instagram, and X. I'm Executive Editor John Seacott for brewermagazine.com.